they were saving a damsel in distress, but they walked straight into a lion's den. Who is the real boss of the 1925 bootlegging operation? Why is Alice suddenly refusing to go to New York? And how will Kat get an unconscious Elliot back to the present day? We are breaking down all the timelines, hidden clues, and tarot card secrets you might have missed. What if the woman you've been trying to save from the past is actually the one running the entire criminal underworld? In this episode of The Way Home, Kat and Elliot dive into the year 1925 thinking they are playing heroes, but they quickly realize they've walked straight into a lion's den. From secret family connections to the shocking origin of the Port Haven Fall Festival, everything we thought we knew about the Augustine family history just got turned upside down. Put on your detective hat, because the clues hidden in a deck of tarot cards are about to lead us to a cliffhanger that changes Elliot's life forever. The episode begins with a beautiful but heavy atmosphere in present-day Port Haven. We see Jacob finally trying to plant roots back on the Landry farm, but tasked by talking to Danny, the real emotional weight lies with Alice. She is preparing to head to New York for school, and the anxiety of leaving her family and the pond is clearly eating at her. Max, being the supportive friend he is, plans an elaborate scavenger hunt to celebrate their memories. This isn't just a game, it's a trip down memory lane began. However, the lighthearted mood shifts the moment Jacob walks in with a woman named Abby. Jacob met Abby briefly in Toronto, and there's an immediate spark between them. It feels like a fresh start for Jacob until Max drops a bombshell. Abby is his sister. The realization hits the room like a ton of bricks. To make matters worse, Max reminds everyone that Jacob was the one who recently tried to burn down the Goodwin vineyard. The family feud between the Landrys and the Goodwins isn't just history. It's an active flame. Abby, horrified by Jacob's identity, leaves before they can even share a cup of coffee. This moment is crucial because it shows that even though Jacob has returned from the 1800s, the modern world has its own set of walls he has to climb. Meanwhile, at the Herald, Elliot is spiraling. He is frantically digging through old newspapers, and his face turns pale when he finds a specific poster. He's discovered a lead on his missing mother, Tessa, and it's linked to a circus traveling through town in 1925. When Kat finds him, the two of them realize that the Futura fortune teller from the old posters is holding the exact tarot cards, the Knight and the Empress, that have been popping up in their timeline. They don't waste a second. They head straight for the pond, knowing that the answers to Elliot's childhood trauma are waiting in the past. As they jump in, the stakes have never been higher because they aren't just looking for a person, they are looking for the truth about the out into the vibrant, chaotic world of the 1925 traveling circus. Right away, the atmosphere shifts to something deeply nostalgic but heavy with historical dread. As they walk through the gates, Kat is suddenly hit by a wave of trauma. She gets a vivid flashback of the time she tried and failed to rescue a young Jacob from this exact carnival space. Elliot quickly calms her down, reminding her that Jacob eventually found his way home, and now it is time to find his mother, Tessa. They scour the grounds for a blue tent decorated with gold stars, matching the Futura poster. But when Elliot bursts into the first star-covered tent he sees, expecting a tearful family reunion, he instead finds a random, burly strongman lifting weights. They quickly realize every single tent in the circus looks identical. The search is a needle in a haystack, and things get incredibly dangerous when Kat spots Thomas Grayson and the notorious Augie boys lurking in the shadows. Elliot looks closer and feels a chill run down his spine. The tallest of the rowdy boys is Mo Augustine, Elliot's own great-grandfather. Hoping Mo will lead them directly to Tessa, Elliot follows them into the crowded alleys of the fair, but the plan self-destructs. The historical bullies realize they are being tailed, corner Elliot, and drag him into a brutal fist-up and punches his own direct ancestor right in the jaw. The chaotic brawl is cut short when the local police, led by a young Cliff, arrive to break it up. To Kat's absolute horror, Thomas Grayson casually uses his immense family wealth to pay off the officers on the spot, ensuring the Augie boys walk free without a single charge. Amidst this corrupt backdrop, a fascinating piece of Port Haven lore falls right into place. Kat and Elliot overhear a casual chat between Fern, Grayson, and Cliff about how much the town loves the circus energy. Grayson pitches the idea of throwing a local, town-owned circus party every autumn, and Fern pipes up that they should call it the Fall Festival. Kat and Elliot lock eyes in sheer disbelief. They are standing at ground zero, witnessing the literal birth of Port Haven's most famous modern-day annual tradition, proving once again that the past they keep visiting is the very architect of the present they live in. While Kat and Elliot navigate the muddy streets of 1925, the present day serves up its own eerie between the family members begins to crack open. Dell is desperately trying to rebuild her bond with Stormy, the horse that threw her, but it is a slow and frustrating process. When Jacob steps in to offer his help, it backfires spectacularly. Dell snaps, confessing her deepest, rawest fear. She cannot bear the thought of Jacob building a connection with this farm and this horse, only to pack his bags and vanish out of her life all over again. The trauma of losing him decades ago is still a living, breathing wound. Meanwhile, the scavenger hunt between Alice and Max reaches its final, bittersweet stop at the Cove. Sitting together under the evening sky, the nostalgia shifts from playful to painful. Max admits that the Cove is the exact place where he first realized how deeply he cared for Alice, and how much he would miss her when she left. This confession triggers a massive panic in Alice. Swept up in the emotional gravity of Port Haven, she suddenly blurts out that she isn't going to New York anymore because her gut is screaming at her to stay. Max is devastated and angry, accusing her of throwing her future away, leaving their relationship fractured on the dark drive home. But the most supernatural riddle unfolds in the barn loft, where Jacob catches Casey, the mysterious Goodwin teenager, spying from the shadows. When Jacob confronts them about their family name, Casey drops a cryptic, time-bending truth bomb. Names and family rivalries don't define who a person actually is. This profound advice instantly inspires Jacob to look out the window and reconcile with Abby Goodwin, who is waiting below. But when Jacob turns back around to thank the teenager, Casey has completely vanished into thin air without a sound. This ghost-like exit mirrors the chaos back in 1925, where Kat and Elliot finally slip into the grand tent to watch the Futura show. The lights dim, and Tessa commands the stage in a flowing red cloak. When she asks for a volunteer from the crowd, Kat rushes the stage. During the palm reading, Kat leans in close and whispers Tessa's real name. Desperate to pull her out of this timeline, Tessa's face drops in sheer shock. Realizing her cover is blown, she abruptly ends the performance and triggers a sudden burst of smoke that blinds the audience. By the time Kat and Elliot rush backstage, Tessa is gone, leaving nothing behind but her discarded red cloak on the floor and a trail of secrets leading straight toward a midnight waters of the Cove in 1925, completely shattering everything Kat and Elliot thought they knew about the Augustine family heritage. Creeping through the dense woods under a pitch-black sky, they watch in breathless silence as a boat docks and a crew of smugglers emerges from the fog. Among them are the rowdy Augie boys. But the real shock comes when Tessa steps into the moonlight. Criminals, Kat loses her cool and rushes out of the tree line, screaming for the smugglers to let Tessa go. The sudden shouting throws the entire operation into chaos. Believing they are being ambushed by a police raid, the crew scatters into the dark. Kat lunges toward Tessa, desperately explaining that she is a time traveler who has come to rescue her and take her back to life. Tessa glares at Kat with absolute fury. The illusion of the victim completely vanishes when Mo Augustine runs up to Tessa, calling her boss, and frantically warns her that Al Capone's bootlegging men are abandoning the cargo because of the commotion. In a stunning, terrifying twist, Tessa pulls a pistol from her robes and fires a deafening warning shot straight into the night sky to stop the panic. She then lowers the barrel, aiming the gun directly at Kat's chest, blaming her for sabotaging a massive, highly profitable illegal operation. Seeing the woman he loved for years about to be executed, Elliot springs forward without a second thought. He throws his body directly in front of the gun, shielding Kat, and locks eyes with the criminal leader. With tears in his eyes, he confesses the ultimate truth. "I am your son." Tessa's cold expression instantly melts into frozen disbelief as she drops the weapon. But before her brain can even process the reality of her grown son standing before her, she gives a subtle, chilling nod to a henchman lurking directly behind Elliot. Before Kat can even scream a warning, a heavy blunt object strikes Elliot squarely in the back of the head, leaving his fate trapped in the dark waters of 1925. While Elliot lies unconscious on the gravel in 1925, The thematic tremors of that final blow echo loudly into the present day, leaving the Landry and Augustine families on the brink of total collapse. The true tragedy of the ending isn't just physical, it is structural. By unmasking Tessa as a bootlegging crime boss, allied with Al Capone's syndicate, the show completely dismantles the historical narrative Elliot built his entire identity upon. He didn't just inherit a legacy of academic curiosity, he is the descendant of a criminal mastermind who prioritized her empire over her family. This revelation recontextualizes generations of Augustine trauma, proving that the family's deep-rooted connection to Port Haven's secrets was born out of survival and shadows, not just destiny. Back in the present, Alice's sudden refusal to go to New York creates a massive paradox of choice. The pond isn't just a portal, it's an anchor. Alice's instinct to stay behind suggests that she subconsciously senses the timeline is breaking, and leaving Port Haven might mean abandoning the people she loves when they are at their most vulnerable. Furthermore, Casey's phantom-like existence continues to haunt the edges of the narrative. The fact that Casey can seamlessly navigate the barn loft, manipulate Jacob's choices with profound wisdom, and vanish without a trace heavily implies that the boundaries between past, present, and future are becoming dangerously thin. If Casey is indeed a time traveler from a future timeline, their warning suggests that the current path the Landrys are on is heading toward a historical train wreck. With Elliot trapped, injured, and vulnerable in 1925, Kat is now entirely on her own in a volatile era without her anchor. She faces a logistical nightmare. How does she transport an unconscious, modern-clothed man back to the pond without drawing the suspicion of the local police or Tessa's ruthless smugglers? This episode flips the entire premise of the series on its head. The Landrys and Augustines have spent years trying to alter the past to heal their present wounds, but they have finally pushed the timeline too far. As the credits roll, we are left with the chilling realization that the past isn't just a place to visit anymore, it has become a prison. And the key is currently lying unconscious in the mud of 1925. This brutal cliffhanger does more than just leave us biting our nails. It completely rewrites the DNA of The Way Home moving forward. For 3 seasons, the show has operated on a basic rule set. Our modern travelers go back in time to fix broken people, heal historical wounds, and bring lost souls home. But this episode completely shatters that savior complex. Kat and Elliot entered 1925 under the arrogant assumption that Tessa was a damsel in distress who needed rescuing from historical bullies. Instead, the timeline looked them dead in the eye and revealed that the victim was actually the villain. By making Tessa an active crime boss, the story forces us to look at the Augustine family tree through a much darker lens. Elliot's lifelong trauma of being abandoned by his mother wasn't a tragic twist of fate. It was a business calculation. Tessa chose a life of high-stakes crime over maternal instinct, and now Elliot is paying the price for that choice, quite literally, by taking a blunt object to the skull. The immediate fallout of this ending leaves Kat stranded in a logistical nightmare. She is stuck in 1925 with an unconscious Elliot, surrounded by Al Capone's smugglers and a corrupt police force that is bought and paid for by the Goodwins. Dragging a grown, knocked-out man through the woods and tossing him into a magical pond is going to require a miracle, especially now that his own mother looks at them as a threat to her empire. Meanwhile, in the present day, Alice's sudden choice to sabotage her own future and stay in Port Haven hints at a larger cosmic problem. The pond isn't just a transport system anymore, it is acting like an emotional black hole, keeping the Landry women trapped in a loop of generational trauma. If Alice refuses to leave, and Elliot is trapped in the past, the family structure completely disintegrates. This episode proves that the past is no longer a sandbox where our characters can play detective. It has evolved into a dangerous living trap that is